This video was brought to you by Nebula. Armenia and Azerbaijan really don't get on. The two Central Asian neighbours have been sparring ever since the collapse of the Soviet Union, mostly over the disputed region of Nagorno-Karabakh, which the Armenians call Artsakh. Now, while there's been a tense equilibrium for most of modern history, Russia's withdrawal from the region after their invasion of Ukraine has tilted the balance of power in Azerbaijan's favour. And in December, Azerbaijan quietly blockaded the only road connecting Nagorno-Karabakh to the rest of Armenia. Then on Sunday, Azeri forces went one further, cutting off a second, smaller road that Armenians have been using to circumvent the original blockade. That means today, Nagorno-Karabakh is basically entirely cut off from the rest of Armenia, and tensions between the two countries are naturally rising. So in this video, we're going to take a look at the blockade itself, why Azerbaijan feels so confident about it. Hint, it's because Russia doesn't have the capacity to act as a peacekeeper anymore, and how all of this might end. Alright, so before we get into the recent developments, it's worth giving you a bit of context. These skirmishes are over a contested region called Nagorno-Karabakh, also known as Artsakh. This mountainous forest region is considered by most of the international community to be part of Azerbaijan. Now, until 1918, it was part of the Russian Empire, as were both Armenia and Azerbaijan, so no one was really arguing over it. However, when the Russian Empire fell in 1918, both the First Republic of Armenia and the Azerbaijan Democratic Republic claimed it for themselves. Now, there was a brief war over the area in 1920, but this didn't get a chance to come to a conclusion because the Soviet Union reclaimed the area in 1923. Now, to avoid conflict, Russia put Nagorno-Karabakh in the Azerbaijan SSR, but gave it its own political autonomy. So at this point, it was officially known as the Nagorno-Karabakh Autonomous Oblast. However, as the Soviet Union started to collapse in the late 1980s, Nagorno-Karabakh, which was at the time by population 80% ethnic Armenian, decided that it was time to jump ship, and the legislature voted to join the Armenian SSR. However, the Soviet Union collapsed not long after in 1991, at which point the Azerbaijan SSR just became Azerbaijan and the Armenian SSR just became Armenia. And at that point, the Nagorno-Karabakh legislature held a referendum on joining Armenia without the approval of the national Azerbaijani government. Now, in part because the ethnic Azeri population boycotted the referendum, 99.98% of voters voted in favor of independence. Then, a few months later, in early 1992, full war broke out between Armenia and Azerbaijan over the area. Now, by the time that any sort of ceasefire was agreed in 1994, Armenia had taken Nagorno-Karabakh. During this time, tens of thousands of people were killed, millions were displaced, and Nagorno-Karabakh was left to this day in a sort of limbo. It's considered by most of the international community to be part of Azerbaijan, but it's de facto controlled by the Republic of Artsakh, which is basically just Armenia. This story in particular really begins in 2020, when Azerbaijan started a new war with Armenia. Now, Azerbaijan won that war because A, it's invested its oil revenues into its army, which is now significantly bigger than Armenia's, and B, Azerbaijan was implicitly backed by Turkey. However, Armenia was basically saved by an intervention by Russia, Armenia's main security partner. So, after a month and a half of fighting, the three sides negotiated a ceasefire agreement, which was guaranteed by Russia. Anyway, as part of this peace agreement, Armenia agreed to, quote, guarantee the security of transport connections between Azerbaijan's mainland and its exclave of Nakhavin. In effect, this meant that Armenia had to let Azerbaijan have access to the Zangezur Corridor, a strip of land which runs between Azerbaijan and Nakhivan along the Armenia-Iran border. However, in the 2 years since then, the two sides have failed to come to an agreement on how to implement this part of the agreement. Azerbaijan does still have access to the road, but Armenia maintains a security presence in the area. Now, Azerbaijan claims that there was a verbal agreement that Armenia would withdraw its troops, but Armenia denies this. Anyway, Azerbaijan has tried to pressure Armenia into acquiescing by attacking Armenian troops on the Azerbaijan-Armenia border in September last year, when Azeri forces even fired artillery into central Armenia, something they previously refrained from doing. Now, this attack came just days after the Ukrainian counteroffensive in Kharkiv, presumably because Azerbaijan was hoping that Russia would be too busy in Ukraine to support Armenia. And, well, they were right. As a member of the Collective Security Treaty Organization, a defense alliance composed of Russia and a whole load of Central Asian states, Armenia even tried to trigger its Article 4, which obliges other members of the CSTO to come to another member's aid in the event of an invasion. Unfortunately for Armenia, though, because the Russian army was busy in Ukraine, the Russians basically said no, giving Azerbaijan basically free rein to attack Armenia. Unsurprisingly then, Armenia-Russia relations have been strained ever since, with Armenia refusing to participate in the CSTO's September joint exercises in Kazakhstan, and Armenia's prime minister actually refusing to sign the organization's latest joint agreement, which means it's sort of unclear as to whether Armenia is still even in the CSTO or not. Anyway, emboldened by Russia's inability to peacekeep effectively, in December, a group of Azerbaijani protesters began a demonstration in the Lachin Corridor. The Lachin Corridor is a mountainous road connecting Nagorno-Karabakh to the rest of Armenia, and the only significant road between the two territories. Now, until August 2022, this area was controlled by Russian peacekeeping troops, but they left in August, presumably to join the Russian army in Ukraine. Anyway, the protesters claimed to be environmental protesters, but, well, this was always implausible, and it quickly became clear that it was just a cover for the Azeri government forces. Then, on Sunday, Azeri forces cut off another road that was being used to circumvent this original blockade, claiming that Armenia's efforts to develop this new road were illegal. Interestingly, Azerbaijan did this without firing a shot, which goes to show the power imbalance between the two countries. Azerbaijan has been able to unilaterally cut off 100,000 or so ethnic Armenians in Nagorno-Karabakh, and Armenia won't do anything about it. So, what's going to happen next in this increasingly fraught region? Well, the 100,000 or so ethnic Armenians in the region are now experiencing food, fuel, and medicine shortages. But Azerbaijan shows no sign of giving up, and has made clear that, as well as unfettered access to the Zangezur corridor, Azerbaijan now also wants to close the Nagorno-Karabakh question by forcing the ethnic Armenians in the region to reintegrate with the rest of Azerbaijan. Now, that might be what they want, but it's hard to see this ending peacefully. Azerbaijan is clearly trying to leverage its military advantage over Armenia to get its optimal outcome. But this would clearly be unacceptable to Armenia. And as a result, it's hard to see this resolving or relations improving anytime soon. If that's not enough TLDR for you for one day, then you ought to check out our new series, This Week in Parliament, which has just made a magnificent return. That's not a quote or anything, that's just a thing I'm saying. Anyway, This Week in Parliament is a show where we run down exactly what happened in Parliament in the preceding week, breaking down the debates, laws and bills which otherwise you'd have totally missed, and explaining what really happens in Britain's seats of power when you brush aside all of the shouting and arm waving. New episodes of that come out every week, only on Nebula. But that's not all. There's also the extended version of the daily briefing every single weekday, a bunch of exclusive explainer videos, some totally silly fun content, and all of our videos totally ad-free. And it's not just TLDR either. We're joined by a whole bunch of your favorite creators, from Wendover and Real Life Law to Johnny Harris, which means that on Nebula, there's a whole ton of exclusive videos, early access to loads of creators, and all of the ad-free viewing you could possibly handle. And signing up using our link gets you access for just $2.50 a month. Not only that, this is the absolute best way you can support the channel. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon on Nebula.